Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Wacky Wednesday on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best here with, of course, Sterling Holmes, my co-host, and producer Richard behind the scenes. Sterling, how's your week been?
It's good, man. Busy, but good. Bought a new house, which is exciting.
Wow. Congrats, man. That's a huge life goal, accomplishment, milestone, what have you.
Yeah, so selling ours, and we're trying to thread the needle there, going in between it all. Got a few things we're doing to the new homestead. So it's been stressful, and I'm heading on vacation next week. So, yay!
There you go.
My hair is gray, and it's not just from the Chiefs.
You get
these luscious locks.
I have none up here, but down here, yeah, but still at my age, not up there. It's pretty weird.
Oh, you just want to rub that in? You just want to?
Well, my hair is thinning a little bit. If that makes you feel better.
Okay, luckily mine's thick. It's so thick, my barber charges me double.
There you go.
I'm kidding.
The Chiefs did lose last weekend. We were pretty sure it was going to happen eventually. I mean, you never know. Some team eventually will go undefeated. But I heard a metaphor from a friend that kind of made sense. And it's a cat only has 9 lives. And it's kind of like the Chiefs were really pressing their luck. Right?
I said this on radio the week
you said
prior.
That? You said that?
I said it a week prior on radio. I said they used 4 of their 9 lives. They still had 5 left, but it's fine.
Well, I think people are on the same wavelength here. It kind of feels like they're just they always play from behind. Not always, but they either play from behind or don't build insurmountable leads. Eventually that's going to catch up to you. I don't care how clutch you are. So it did. The sky is not falling, but we do have an illuminating show for you guys. We'll sort through whether potential problems are real or fake for the Chiefs. I think it's a good time to reflect. We're about at the halfway point. The Chiefs finally lost. But before we get to all that, there's a little bit of business we need to take care of.
Oh, yeah, baby. And we're talking underdog fantasy. You know it. We know it. We all love it. That is underdog fantasy. It's not just great for football. It is electric for football. I use it all the time for football with their champs, with their draft, with the vulture protection. They have so many great ways that get you going, and it's extremely simple to use. Select higher or lower on your favorite players and cash in right there on Underdog. And if you download the app today and use code Arrowhead Addict, all one word, you can get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, that's code Arrowhead Addict, all one word, to get up to that $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. I'm going to let everyone know what I'm rocking with tonight. I'm doing a little NBA fun one. I am horrible at NBA, but maybe this one I give out will actually hit. Good juju heading into the atmosphere. I went higher on Devin Booker assists, higher on James Harden assists, higher on Evan Mobley rebounds, higher on Karl Anthony Towns, higher on Giannis Antetokounmpo points, and higher on Jalen Brunson assists. Just like that, baby. Trying to turn 5 into 92. Plus, it's great because they have a thing called flex. So if I only get, let's say, 5 of the 6 picks right, well, I'm still a winner. I just don't get the majority of the cash coming my way. Pretty cool thing that Underdog does. I highly recommend it. And again, that's code Arrowhead Addict if you want to join Underdog. Every player, any stat you want, just select higher or lower. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado. For some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona 100-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783 or text next step 253-342. New York, call 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Dang it!
I
was
know
on a heater.
that was gonna be an all-time record, man. I'm a fast reader, and you were rattling that off faster than I could read. Do you have that memorized? Is this
No.
like an actor with a lion at this point?
I am a very quick reader, though. I have that going for me, but that was a bummer. I thought I had it, and that one hiccup.
One hiccup, but you will get that perfect read if you haven't already at some point. Let's move into our segment for today. Chief problems, real or fake? So as we said, the Chiefs' undefeated season ended last season. Are we panicking? Hell no. Are we analyzing flaws that might have been exposed? Hell yes. So let's sort out real from fake. Which problems will linger and which ones are fugazi?
That's a fugazi? How do you know it's a fugazi? You looked at it for 2 seconds.
Well, it's a fake.
Yeah, I know what a fugazi is.
You ever seen Donnie Brasco?
No.
Yeah,
I know
Johnny
what Fugazi is, but it just made me laugh. I was
yeah, not expecting it. Yeah, Johnny Depp goes undercover and pretends like he's in the mob. It's a good flick. It's probably 25 years old at this point, but if you like mob movies, it is a fun one. And sorry to overlook the Carolina Panthers, but hey, they're the Carolina Panthers, right? I'm sure Patrick will and Matt will look at them a little bit tomorrow, but today we're looking at the big picture from 30,000 feet above. Let's get right into it. The first statement I have for you, Sterling, is the Chiefs secondary isn't the same without Jalen Watson.
Oh, that's
real or fake?
So real. That is the realest thing of all. That is one of the main issues for Kansas City was what's going to happen without L'Jarius Sneed. Well, Jalen Watson was the guy that stepped up. He played with a torn labrum last year. He was a CB3 last year, right? He was a really good player last year. Take that back. Very solid player last year. He turned into a almost budding superstar this year. He looked like the next in line of the L'Jariuses, the Charvariuses, the Trent McDuffies. Like, Jalen Watson was incredible to start the year. I mean, just ridiculously good. The Chiefs are still struggling to find out who that CB2 is. Joshua Williams is no longer even getting snaps. Najee Johnson is clearly not the answer. And it's forced a lot of issues, not just with CB2, but it's now forced some issues at slot corner. It really has, because they tried Shamari Connor, then they tried going with Christian Roland Wallace. Now they're back with Shamari Connor. Well, Trent McDuffie is your best slot corner, but if you don't trust one, now you can't trust two outside corners. You can't put Trent there. So you're doing all these different moving pieces, and Jalen Watson fixed a lot of those issues. So yeah, this is the biggest reel of them all, in my opinion, that the Chiefs secondary isn't the same without Jalen Watson.
I would take it a step further and say the Chiefs defense isn't the same without Jalen Watson. He is a real difference maker. And I think it's even affected not only Shamari Connor, because there's a domino effect. You'd like for Trent McDuffie to be in the slot more. You would like for Shamari Connor to help out the other safeties who's great against the run and have so many strengths, but they do struggle in coverage from time to time. And Jalen Watson is a better matchup for guys like Cortland Sutton than Trent McDuffie. He's just going to be able to press those guys more effectively because he's a lot longer. He's a lot bigger. There's no question about that. And I think these last 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago against the Broncos, there was a pivotal 3rd and 6 late in the fourth quarter, and Bo Nix converted to Cortland Sutton. And then last week, very late on 3rd and 9, I know everyone's looking at, they could have stopped Josh Allen on 4th and 2. You aren't stopping Josh Allen on 4th and 2. The time to stop Josh Allen is 3rd and 9, and the Chiefs couldn't do it. Khalil Shakir got that first down. I just think they're not quite as smothering without Jalen Watson. And sometimes you don't know how good somebody is until they go missing. So I think Jalen Watson is an even better player than we realized. And we were already pretty high on him this season. So we're definitely going to stamp that one with a dark red reel. Number 2, Xavier Worthy's spatial awareness needs some work, real or fake. And I'll elaborate here. There's kind of an argument about how much of this is Xavier Worthy being a little green, and how much of it is Mahomes's deep ball being inaccurate. So real or fake?
It's real. I mean, Patrick could 100% help. Seriously, Patrick's missed on two, even the one this last week. Like, he could have made that a touchdown if he leads them instead of throws it to the boundary. But what I will say is that throw being what it was, Xavier still needs to come down with it. At worst, that should have been a deep ball first down. That was the worst. That should have been worst case scenario with that throw. Okay. It wasn't a perfect throw, but it wasn't a bad throw, right? That's kind of the difference that I'm making here. The one that was thrown out of bounds, that was a bad throw. This wasn't a bad throw. It just wasn't a great throw. It was a decent throw from Pat. Xavier needs to catch it. And I don't know if it's spatial awareness, because he did try dragging his foot. The issue was he dragged his foot before he caught it, which was interesting. So he knows it's there. I just didn't know if it was a college issue where he's still so used to college only getting 1 foot in bounds, which I think is actually an under talked about aspect of wide receivers rookie year, making that transition. I know we don't see it often, but I will at least give this a little real, because it's not just one time now. Now it's two. There's definitely something there.
It's also route running. Once he stacked that corner, he probably should have not hugged the sideline so tightly, I think. And I think part of it is Mahomes just doesn't know where he's going to be yet, like he would with Tyreek Hill. I mean, Tyreek Hill is one of the two best deep ball adjusters we've ever seen, along with Randy Moss. So that's a really tough comparison for anybody. But I just think he's not totally got a grasp of what he needs to do to stay in bounds and kind of house those long balls. And part of it is definitely Mahomes too, but he needs some work on his sideline awareness, tightrope walking, all that kind of stuff, toe tapping, right? Yeah. Number 3, another wide receiver potential issue. DeAndre Hopkins' body and knee injury cannot tolerate a full complement of snaps. Real or fake?
Yeah, this is more fake to me. I don't think there's anything with his body that's keeping him from the amount of snaps. I don't know what it is. It is interesting that all of a sudden Juju comes back, and that was kind of almost a direct correlation in snap count share. I don't know if it was Andy not wanting to show DeAndre to the Bills a whole bunch, waiting for the playoffs. I think that might be a little bit overblown. I don't know if he's still just getting used to the system, but it is disheartening after seeing him go off a couple of weeks ago, the past 2 weeks, more or less used as just a rotational guy. I don't understand it. I don't know if they're saving him, but I don't think it's necessarily body. Like I think he's healthy enough. Andy does these things. The Chiefs do these things sometimes that are complete head scratchers, yet it ends up working because come playoff time, these guys are ready to go. But hell, they're playing Travis Kelce like 85% of the snaps. So I don't understand the correlation or the rhyme or reason, but I don't think it's body related. So I'll say fake.
The reason I asked is because he had what we think is an MCL injury in training camp in Nashville when he played for the Titans, and they were keeping him under a certain snap count. Now that was building up, but he wasn't running 80% of routes in Tennessee either, 80, 90, that window that those full-time players get to. I do think there is a little load maintenance here. Like we've seen what he can do when we really need to turn it up. Let's make sure this 32-year-old receiver with a long history of lower body injuries makes it to 2025. That has to be some of it. But the Chiefs, it is hard to criticize the Kansas City Chiefs, but especially in the regular season, their wide receiver rotation and the way they sub guys in and out, it can be downright goofy at times. When sometimes you'll see, like in the past, a combination of Justin Watson, Sky Moore, and McCole Hardman when Rice was available on third down, and you just wanted to stick your head in the oven. You're like, what is going on? Or DeAndre Hopkins will come out on third down. Sometimes it just doesn't make any sense, especially given that game where he went 10 for 86 and the Chiefs were running the offense through him initially. That really got Travis Kelce going too. That's the best the Chiefs, in my opinion, have looked all year on offense. So how they say more, I want more, you know?
Again, if you're not using them because it's an obvious rundown because you don't want them to block, I get that. Like, I understand that. Juju's better in that role. Couple things here.
More expendable too, right?
Yeah.
I hate to say it like that, but
yeah. Ken in the chat says, D-Hop, wasn't there something if he played a certain amount, we had to give him a lower pick? Yeah, the fifth goes to a fourth, 60%, and it's either make or win the Super Bowl. So I don't think the Chiefs are that worried about the fifth and the fourth. There is something there with the 60% threshold. So yes, you are correct, but I wouldn't imagine that that's like the deciding factor. That's my thoughts personally. I don't think they would care. That they want to win. They want to win the Super Bowl. That's what matters more. If they give up a fourth, that means things went right. So that's more or less my opinion. But I do think it's a good point you brought up. And then another one that says from Steve, D-Hop and Juju are redundant. I slightly disagree. They are playing a very similar role right now, but I don't think they have to be labeled redundant. I know that's kind of how, at least what we saw from Andy in this particular game, but Hopkins can really go to the outside. We just had him in that power slot because Rashee Rice went down and Juju went down. We said, who's going to fill that role with both those guys out? Well, Adam was very astute and said, let's put DeAndre Hopkins there. But now that Juju's back, I think you can put Juju in that power slot role and move DeAndre to the outside where he's been the majority of his career. That, to me, wouldn't be a redundancy, even though, again, what we saw from him early in KC kind of was.
And you can still put him in the slot when you need to go get a bucket, when you really need a conversion on 3rd and 8 or whatever. Juju can come out, or Juju can move outside and focus more on blocking or being the pick man on the rub guy on mesh or whatever. So they're interchangeable. Nobody really in this offense ever plays more than 60% in the slot. That's kind of like universal across the league. Maybe someone gets up to 65, but even the Amon-Ra's and Cooper Kupps only get into that 65% range. So I don't think it's abnormal. I'm totally with you too. He can do everything Juju can do, but he also is a ball winner who can go up and win contested catches. He can separate better against man coverage. He's just a more complete receiver. So I think they're going to use him everywhere because they can.
How do you watch the Bucs game? Sorry, last thing. How do you watch the Bucs game and say, yeah, we need less of that? Like that's what I don't understand.
He was really on one that night. I mean, that's when I said this trade's a home run. And I'm sure they will use him a lot come playoff time, and this will be a waste of air.
Yes.
Number 4, there is no savior coming at left tackle, and both serious options are too young to stabilize by the playoffs. I'm talking about Kingsley Suamataia and Wanya Morris. Is this real or is this fake?
First part, I think, is real. I don't think there's a savior coming at left tackle. I was convinced that they were going to get a left tackle, a veteran, and now I am really questioning that. I really am. And I think the farther along you go, there's only one veteran option, and that's Donovan Smith. I think the longer this waits, that's what it's going to be. That ain't a savior. I will stay on the hill that people are reminiscing about what he did in the playoff run and not what he was during the regular season. Wanya Morris has graded out better than Donovan Smith was last year. Just throwing that out there. And I kind of agree with Andy Reid. Andy Reid, and I did this yesterday with Briscoe. I was going through all the pass block numbers and stuff and some PFF just pass block only. Wanya Morris was fine last week against Buffalo. It wasn't him. Trey Smith graded out at a 35. Creed was like a 64. Wanya was like a 73, and Andy Reid almost spoke to it. Andy Reid was like, yeah, we've seen him get better as the season's gone on. Yet we all remember some of the plays that really stand out for Wanya, and if the offensive line has an issue, we all just immediately point to that guy. He's almost being used as a scapegoat for every single offensive issue on the offensive line. And I think it's a little unfair. I'm not saying he's great. I'm not even saying he's good. I think he's fine. And that's what Donovan Smith was last year. Donovan Smith was fine. Even my dog agrees with me right here. Look at this. He's like, hell yeah, he's fine. He's not great. If you're going to bring back Donovan Smith, though, I would trust that way more as a backup plan because I don't trust Kingsley Suamataia at all.
I totally hear what you're saying. And even if it is a reality that Wanya Morris's play is on par with what we saw from Donovan Smith last year, that doesn't mean Mahomes trusts him as much, right? He may have more trust in Donovan Smith last year because what we're seeing from Patrick Mahomes is he's taking more sacks. His pressure to sack rate, it's up to 18%. It's never been higher than 9, 10, 11. I think the highest we've ever seen is 12. That is a huge jump. He's just taking more sacks. Maybe his ankle getting banged up had something to do with that, but it's not like we haven't seen him have ankle injuries before. I just think there's something there on a comfort level, on a trust level with Wanya Morris and particularly Kingsley Suamataia, but also it's a little real to me on both fronts because when you're looking at Andrew Wiley, Orlando Brown Jr., Juwan Taylor, Donovan Smith, these veterans who know a little bit more about the game, probably process things a little faster, and frankly, know some of the tricks on how to get away from holding, how to those kind of things. I just have a little bit more faith that you can coach those guys up than someone who's a little bit more raw.
Yeah.
Number 5, Andy Reid's short yardage calls are as imaginative as a Hallmark movie plot. I'm not talking about goal line. I'm talking about midfield, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1.
The pushback I'll give, and I understand where you're coming from. They've been really good in those situations almost all year long. I think we keep remembering about last year and the year prior where the struggles really were amounting to frustration. They've been pretty good just handing the ball off to Kareem Hunt, using that 2-back, almost Kareem either as a fullback or Carson Steele as a fullback. So it's either a dive, fullback dive or a halfback dive, and it worked. The only time I can remember it not working was this past week when they had the 3rd and 1 and Kareem didn't get it. I've actually been okay with the less than overthinking, right? We could sometimes get on for overthinking things. He hadn't been overthinking it. And I still think you go back to it, especially when you get Pacheco back. I think then you have Kareem and him on the field at the same time, Pacheco and Kareem. I think that opens up things just even a little bit more. No, I'm actually been okay with Andy in the short yard situations because he's running the damn ball.
Philosophically, you and I are probably on different pages here. I'm going to say it's real. I think when it matters, like last year in the Super Bowl, he did on 4th and 1 put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands. That's where I would like to see it. The other issue on that play is Travis Kelce was not on the field. And when you don't have Travis Kelce on the field, the other team is seeing a run sign in flashing, blinking neon lights. I don't know. It's a little bit telegraphed, and maybe I do. Maybe you're right. Maybe I do have Michael Burton PTSD from all those failed attempts, right? On that particular play, it made me think, I want you to answer this question. Between Kareem's superior vision and Pacheco's superior burst ability to hit the hole, which do you think is more valuable in those short yardage situations to convert, or is it just matchup dependent?
I think it's almost going to be the vision. I think it's Kareem Hunt for sure. You've seen him be way more effective, I think, than Pacheco in the past in those short yard situations. So for me, clearly it's vision when you only need a yard or two. And by the way, I saw some people asking about the dog, so I wanted to give him up and bring him up here. He is a Cavapoo, a Cavalier King Charles and a Poodle mixed. He's like 33 pounds, so he's a good size. Not tiny, big enough you can play with and have some fun, but he's 33 pounds. He's a good little boy. He's a good little guy.
My doodle, she is 37 pounds, so they could almost be siblings.
Wow.
Yeah, and And he gets really imaginative down by the goal line. I think he's trying to win, but I do think that a couple things. This is debated a lot, whether they hold things back. I don't know that they necessarily hold things back, but I do think they have a few silver bullets for the playoffs. And I also think seeing a team the first time and then playing them in the second game in the playoffs, that helps them have those silver bullets. They go back and watch the tape and they're like, you know what? If we would have done this play here in short yardage, this would have worked. They're kind of setting themselves up for this. So the Chiefs in the playoffs are both sides of the ball, better at game planning than anybody. So I expect this to improve in the playoffs, and I don't think it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Number 6, the Chiefs are worn down from over half a decade of deep playoff runs, real or fake. And I have a statistic here, and it's that in the Mahomes era, the Chiefs have played 6 more games than any other team. And that team is the San Francisco 49ers, who have also played a lot of games in their own right. I mean, there's a lot of teams the Chiefs have played well over a dozen more games than during this span.
Yeah, slightly real. Like, I don't think it's – there's definitely something to it. Because we've heard players talk about the grind. You know, the Patriots players have talked about the grind and how much longer seasons are, the offseason being so much shorter. But then you hear Drew Tranquil today, and Drew Tranquil is just all energy, being like, no, man, this is what we play for. Like, you play for football. This is what you want. This is good. Now, he's also not been here as long as Mahomes and Jones and Kelce, so it's still a little new to him. I think it's something small to it, but nothing crazy.
I think what it does, very similar to teams we've seen in the NBA that have become dynasties, maybe not so much with the Warriors, but like the Spurs, it gets to the point where you're playing the long game. You're thinking forward to the postseason, and you have to stay healthy. You have to stay mentally sharp. I don't know. You're just trying to get through the regular season, and then there's a definite switch that is flipped in the postseason, particularly with Pat, Chris, and Travis. We've all seen definitive proof that their level of play and prey in Chris Jones's circumstance rises in the postseason. So I think there's something here, and it might be part of why they, at least to our expectations as Chiefs fans, underperform a little bit in the regular season. Slight real. Number 7, Chris Jones has the top pass.
Wait, I love this from Steve. Steve, great call, Steve. Steve goes, put a stocking cap on him. I'm assuming my dog, and I would have subscribed. That'd be great. They're calling my dog like a Matt Connor.
Oh, damn. Go find one, and I will filibuster until you get back.
I'm fine. I've got an old. He's gonna hate that. I just threw his ball underneath the bed. He's going to probably scratch soon. He is not going to be happy.
I can put a Chiefs bandana around my dog's neck, but if I try to put a hat on her, she's not having that. She's not feeling that.
I don't know if he's a boy or not. He can be ornery sometimes.
Yeah. Probably the boy thing.
Wife's pulling in. Get ready, y'all. I'll try and mute myself. You go first. You ask the question. You talk about it.
Number 7, Chris Jones has the top pass rush win rate in football, but is getting almost zero help from the edges. Is that real or is that fake? Some stats here. George Karlaftis, FAU, and Mike Dana have combined for only 10 more pressures total, 56, than Chris Jones, who has 46 pressures. And Chris Jones is the most double-teamed player in football at 70%. I think this is extremely real. One of the huge differences in that Bills Chiefs tilt last Sunday was it just felt like Josh Allen had more time. Josh Allen was more comfortable in the pocket than Patrick Mahomes. He had more time. And I think that the better these guys play, the more you get penalized for doubling Chris Jones. And the less he'll probably get doubled. I think teams are still going to double him 60% no matter what happens. But this has me yearning for Charles Omenihu, because Charles Omenihu, and we'll see with Joshua Uche. We haven't seen a lot from him yet, but the Chiefs really need somebody who can win fast, who can blow shit up. And all apologies to Karlaftis, FAU, and Dana. They do some things well. They're particularly stout against the run. They're fundamentally sound, all those things. They're just not guys who are going to win fast.
They've been outstanding against the run. Okay. So that is something to keep in mind here. I think you brought that up, which is a good point. Karlaftis has been okay. He's actually gotten a good amount of pressures Karlaftis has of those three guys. The issue is he doesn't win quickly a lot of times, which is forcing Spags to send a lot of blitzes. FAU has, I think, been better than I think maybe a lot of people expected he would be after they saw him last year. But FAU's just been a guy almost, which I'm not giving up on him. He's still a very young player, but FAU is just a rotational piece. Mike Dana has almost taken a step back, which is, again, he's not unplayable. That's not what I'm trying to say, but he's not been the same sort of player, in my opinion, that he was last year. And we keep hoping for Charles Omenihu to come out and off this injury and revert back to the Charles he was before. The issue is, we heard it from Turk. It took him a year before he really got his legs underneath him. I'm nervous that Charles comes back and he just, again, looks like a guy. Not like the Charles Omenihu who we've come to enjoy watching when healthy and on the field, but just, again, a guy, just a jag. And the Chiefs can't have that, because I think we're all putting our hope in that Charles comes back and the defensive line reverts back to what it once was. Right now, they're tied for 27th in the NFL in sacks. They have 19. 19. That's just brutal. So I thought Uche might be the answer to an extent, but Uche played 5 snaps against the Bills. Part of that, I wonder if it's because he's more of a speed guy, and with Josh Allen, you care more about the run lanes. You care more about, collapsing this way instead of winning quick, because when Karlaftis won quick, what happened? Josh Allen rolled it out to the outside, threw a great pass to Mac Hollins, ended up being a first down. Like, again, Josh Allen brings a whole bunch of different aspects that other quarterbacks don't, because even Lamar Jackson isn't making that throw. Lamar Jackson might take off and run. Lamar Jackson might try and make that throw, but I think only 2 quarterbacks can actually do that specific play. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. That's the list. So they just provide and bring a different sort of unique challenge. And this Chiefs defensive line was not built or set up for that challenge.
They're bringing Uche along pretty slowly. Hopefully that's what's going on, because I remember when Melvin Ingram came in, he was on the field a lot, right? And it feels like Uche is on the field less than Terrell Suggs, less than T. Sizzle was. So I'm wondering if they're like, yeah, this guy isn't the player we wanted, or if Spags is just like, he weighs 240 pounds. That's not my kind of edge. There's some kind of like disconnect or issue here. Hot take. I think since Mike Dana has come back, I think FAU's been better. Not that FAU's necessarily blown my socks off, but I just think Mike Dana has definitely regressed as a player, and maybe injuries are part of that story, to be fair. But FAU, there are some small flashes, some small signs of hope. You'll see a tackle for a loss or a sack. You will see him make kind of a splash play every once in a while, and you're just not getting that from Mike Dana.
I don't want to get on this too much, but like I've been impressed with a lot of like one-on-one situations when he almost has to break down like a defender in basketball, and FAU doesn't get shook, whether it's a running back or a quarterback. Like I've been impressed with the athleticism of FAU. So yeah, I don't know how I view this defensive line as a whole. I've been frustrated with the lack of pressures when they only rush 4, but they've been elite stopping the run. I'm stuck saying Karlaftis has had a nice year. FAU's had a nice progression to his career. Chris Jones has been outstanding. Turk Warren's had a really nice year. And so I'm stuck going, well, why has this defensive line been so bad? And it's just the immediate winners. They're just stuck with a whole bunch of above average guys outside of Chris Jones and no one else who's really winning those one-on-one matchups quick.
We are getting playoff Mike Pennell back. So that's the good
Yeah.
news. The guy looks like Warren Sapp in the postseason for some reason. Pancaking Trent Williams for Pete's sake. I think one of the issues here with them not getting 4, Spags does have a lot of great exotic blitzes in his bag, and he knows he's got a good knack for dialing them up. But man, you just don't want to have to bring 5 or 6 against Josh Allen too much, because he is smart, he is elusive, he is hard to bring down, and he has an absolute cannon. And that just means one less guy back in the secondary in that back 7 to cover that fleet of weapons, and he'll be democratic with it. He'll spread it around. I just don't like it. The Bills were getting more pressure with 4 than the Chiefs were with 5 or 6. And that is a losing recipe every time. And they're going to have to fix it, or this could be along with left tackle, this could be the team's fatal flaw.
Yeah.
Number 8, the Bills now have the home field advantage tiebreaker. That's going to make a difference, real or fake?
Fake. I don't think we need to spend too much time on this one. One, I still think the Chiefs win the 1 seed. I still think they get the 1 seed. I know the Bills have the tiebreaker, but the Chiefs still have 1 game advantage on Buffalo. The Chiefs are getting more players back than Buffalo is, although Buffalo is getting Matt Milano back. So that is something. That is a positive.
Coleman, Kincaid, maybe
I guess
Cooper.
Butker, which is a big one, which we haven't even had to see Schrader really kick. He's kicked the extra points, and those things were going to the moon, but we don't know him in a clutch situation or anything like that. Yeah, I think the Chiefs will win the 1 seed, and even if they don't, they proved last year they can go on the road. Is it ideal? Do you want that? No, but they proved they can. So I'm not. This is not a big deal to me at all.
I think it's fake as well. I would have loved for the Chiefs to, slam the door on the Bills last Sunday night and basically lock up the 1 seed, because that's what they would have done with the Ravens losing. But if you look at the Bills' schedule, it's pretty brutal. They play the 49ers, and the 49ers are going to be desperate this week. They are facing potential playoff elimination if their struggles continue. They're playing at the Rams. That offense suddenly looks really good. Jared Verse is probably going to be the defensive rookie of the year. The defense looks okay. I mean, now that they're healthy, the Rams look like a different team. And then the Lions. It hurts me to say this as a Chiefs fan, and I don't think it extends to the postseason. But right now, the Lions are easily the best team in the NFL. So that is a rough schedule. And then they play 3 divisional games against 2 against the Patriots, 1 against the Jets. And I don't care how bad you think those teams are. They know the Bills as well as anybody, and they're going to play them tight. We've seen this in our own division with the Broncos. That's just the way it goes, or the Steelers and the Ravens, or the Browns and the Ravens, whatever. That's just the way it goes. So That's a fake. That's a fugazi. Number 9, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are both playing better football than Patrick Mahomes, and that's worrisome. Real or fake?
I don't know about worrisome, but the first part's definitely true. It's definitely real. I mean, right now, if you're saying just this year, who's been the better player, it's clearly been Lamar and Josh over Patrick. Now, are you asking me who do I want to take in the playoffs, or who do I want to take for the rest of the season, or who do I want to build a team around? It's Patrick. It's not even close. But yeah, this year, Mahomes has not played his best. Lamar's been incredible. We talked to Aaron Schatz yesterday, and some of the underlying numbers have been just phenomenal of what Lamar Jackson has done, not just with his legs, but actually surprisingly, more or less with his arms.
Does he have the best weapons, though? Does he have the best situation? I think he probably does. I mean, Derrick Henry in that Ravens offense has just been a weapon of mass destruction, man.
Sure. And Josh has been incredible, though, too. I mean, it's one of those situations, though. You can do all you want in the regular season. You got to do it in the postseason. So right now, those 2 quarterbacks are playing better than Patrick, but I am not taking those guys over Patrick when it's all said and done.
Neither am I. And right now, if you look at adjusted expected points added per play, Lamar's first, Allen's second. That's your MVP race right there. I think Josh Allen is your MVP. And Pat is 12th, but we've read this book before. We know the upcoming chapters. And I don't know how it happens, but Mahomes gets the playoffs and he's like, okay, this is serious now. His play, it just goes up a couple levels. He levels up. And I don't think we should expect anything different this year because we've seen a clear pattern that he levels up once the postseason arrives. I have not seen Lamar Jackson level up in the playoffs. I have seen a little bit of Josh Allen level up in the playoffs, and he damn near beat the Chiefs in maybe the greatest NFL game of all time, but he just hasn't been as consistent as Patrick Mahomes. When Patrick Mahomes gets into the playoffs, he locks in. The interceptions go away. The big time throws go up. He doesn't get sacked. He runs more. I mean, that's one real big difference between the regular season Bills versus Chiefs and the postseason Bills versus Chiefs. When Josh Allen plays the Chiefs, it doesn't, I mean, you could have the game in June. He would still run like a banshee. He would run with reckless abandon. That's just how he plays. He plays like a bull in a china shop. Patrick Mahomes is a little bit more tactical with his scrambling, a little bit more hesitant to put his body on the line at this time of year. But once, I mean, we saw it, I think last year's playoff game, Mahomes came out in that first drive against the Bills and was running like crazy. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but that is definitely one thing that changes when these teams match up in the postseason.
Yeah.
Number 10, our final one. Kansas City has a problem putting teams away that could bite them in the ass. Real or fake?
Slightly real. Okay, because normally a win's a win end of the day, right? Win's a win's the end of the day. I don't care a whole bunch about point differential. I don't really want to get in an argument at the moment. But
I am going to bring it up, though, because I think it's interesting.
The reason why I say partially it's real, their final defensive drives have been really bad this year. Like, for as great as the defense been for the totality of the season, like overall, this defense has been a really, really good defense. When it comes to
like that when they had Watson, though? Because I felt like Spags and Chris Jones and that defense were closing out games early on.
The Ravens wasn't necessarily a closeout, right? I mean, if we're being real here, the Bengals kind of was. What else? The Tampa Bay game, the Broncos game. I mean, seriously, it was a field goal. I mean, I'm giving credit to Leo and the special teams and all that, but it wasn't like the defense got to stop. So yeah, there is some concern, in my opinion, for that exact reason. They can play great all game long, but that final drive, it feels like the defense has not been good. So that does give me some reason why, if you're not going to blow teams out and you're leaving teams in games and the defense is struggling on their final possession, then yeah, that might be a bit of a real concern.
And also, you want the offense to be able to succeed in the red zone. And there could be some issues there. There could be some issues if Harrison Butker isn't himself. These are reasons you don't want to keep it close. Let's look at point differential, because I think it tells an interesting story. The Chiefs are at plus 49. The Broncos are at plus 52. The Chargers are at plus 75. And I think those are meaningful numbers, because it's not like you look at the Broncos and you look at the Chargers. These are not loaded offenses. Now, the Broncos have a pretty bright, innovative offensive play caller in Sean Payton. He's a quarterback whisperer. I think he's proved that this year with Bo Nix. And the Chargers are well coached too. But if those teams with, I think, lesser situations can put away teams a little better than the Chiefs, there's something here. And then you look at the great teams, the other great teams in the league. You look at the Bills, they're at plus 106. The Lions are plus 159. They get a lead on you, they hammer you. And that's just not really Andy Reid's thing necessarily.
But you don't get extra points for that. You don't get an extra. It's not a win and a half if you win by 30 versus winning by 3. That's my one. Again, the Cowboys have done this, because the Cowboys have done this for so long. Not this year, but the Cowboys would get up and they would just do play action when you think you're running the football. And instead of winning by 10, they win by 17 or win by 24, right? The Lions, I'm not saying are running the score necessarily on purpose, but like they're still throwing the football when they're up 4 scores. The Chiefs just don't do that. Like they let the Raiders come back, so it ended up looking like a 1-score game because they won by 7 instead of 14. Like there is something to the Ravens and the Bengals and the Broncos game, but that's why I think point differential for the Chiefs, almost only the Chiefs, can be a little bit wonky because Andy Reid just won't blow teams out. Now they play the Panthers this week. We'll see because the Panthers are a bad team. But even this, I doubt is going to be some 52-6 drubbing like Detroit gave the Jacksonville Jaguars.
And he will blow a team out in the playoffs. They routed the Pittsburgh Steelers in Big Ben Roethlisberger's last game. So I think he will unload the clip a little bit more in the playoffs. But I am a little worried with Harrison Butker and that injury, that relying and all the other injuries, that relying on late game, close game heroics to always end up in the Chiefs' favor. One of these days, it's just not going to work out. And I'd rather them just pile on points and pull away in some of these big games. Let's move on to early score predictions. Sterling, are you predicting a blowout?
Depends what you determine a blowout. I said 27-13. I think the defense gets right. I think that the Chiefs still score 27 points, but I don't see a 30 or 40 burger. They just don't blow teams out. They get up, get ready for a heavy dose of running the ball. The Chiefs have a good chance to get their offensive line back on track. The Panthers are 31st in the NFL in sacks. They don't get after the quarterback. They're not good. Jadeveon Clowney is their best pass rusher, and he has 1 sack on the season. They have a decent secondary, so I'll give the Panthers some credit there. That's probably their strongest aspect is their secondary. Got some good players, including J.C. Horn. But this is a game that the Chiefs' offensive line I expect to dominate for KC. I am not saying the Chiefs will dominate overall, but I want to see the offensive line have their way and keep Mahomes upright. 0 sacks. That's the number I'm looking forward to most for the Kansas City offensive line.
I'd love to see a confidence-building game for this offensive line, particularly for the tackles, and most of all for Wanya Morris. So I am totally down with that. I think the Chiefs have been coasting a little bit, and they're finally tasting some blood in their mouth. They got hit last week. Might have been a little bit of a wake-up call. I think they're still fine. It's like one game. We lose to the Bills every year in the regular season. It's kind of our ritual, and then we'll beat them in the playoffs. But I do think they're going to come out a little bit angry this week. They've been hearing the chirping on TV that the Chiefs aren't that good, that Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the league. And I know Mahomes pretends that he's not Petty Pat, but he is. And I think if there's going to be a blowout on this year's docket, it is this game. So I'm going to try to manifest that with my prediction. I usually predict tight games. Last week, I predicted a 1-point game. This week, I'm going Chiefs 37, Bills 10. This version of, I guess last year, they routed the Bears, actually. So I think they're due.
Sure.
Sterling, let's finish up with what's spinning. What are you listening to, man?
I've listened to a lot of stuff, a lot of Kaleo, but I'm going to say this one because it had been in my head for a while. You know those Apple commercials, which, by the way, typically I think Apple has great commercials. I can't stand those Genius ones because I'm like, you're just making yourself look lazy. Like, you're kind of making yourself look like an ass. Whereas, like, sorry, I didn't read the report or the email you sent me. Let me just pretend like I read it with AI right here and then regurgitate it back to you. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to totally go with the person who's extremely unprepared, or like the wife who's like, I forgot your birthday, but I'm going to give you a video on my phone. That's your present. What? Imagine, like, come on, you're lazy. I hate those commercials. They drive me insane for a company that I typically think has good commercials. But the song where it goes, genius, like the very end, I'm like, that sounds like Chris Calico. I looked it up. That is big Chris Calico off of his 2009 album Genius. And I'm like, good for Chris Calico. If you don't know Chris Calico, he's a Kansas City rapper, R&B singer. did a lot of stuff with Tech Nine and Strange Music back in the day. They were kind of the 1-2 punch, right? That they were really the big people of Strange Music. Obviously, Travis was helping start the label, but Chris Calico was always in the background. Loved Chris Calico's voice. Really good musician, very talented. He had an R&B album come out a little bit in probably 2015, 16. It reminded me of Chris Calico when I heard that Genius thing. I go, that sounds like him. I'm so glad I was right. So if you're from Kansas City, that's one of our own here in that Apple commercial doing the song Bite.
Those Apple residuals have to hit different. I mean, I'm guessing those commercials pay out pretty well.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, for Chris Calico, I'm like, hell yeah, get your money.
Good for him. You love seeing local talent thrive. I'm not going to go with the Kansas City group, but I grew up on a lot of soul and funk music. That's one of the things my dad really liked. So there is a group out of New Orleans called the Meters, and they have an album called Rejuvenation. This is really cool. I think they're just consummate musicians that make great music. That I think they were mismanaged and they never had the level of fame they deserved. But I'm really into them. They're a band that I've always known about, but in the past year or two, partially because a recommendation from a friend on this album, I got really into. So I love albums that you can just put on during dinner and chill with and just have on and the vibes are great. It's in the background and nobody wants to change the music. I think now one of the great things I love about records and a really good album is we're so impatient now. You know, you're talking about AI and everything. It's like you hear a song, you're like, oh, let's play. What are we searching for next? And it's just, there's something old school, classic, and comfortable to me about an album you can just put on and sit back and relax.
Yeah, I go front to back. That's my go-to. I'm a big front to back, just listen to the album, the entire thing. Because that's a lot of times, and not always, but a lot of times that's how the artist wanted you to listen to it. A lot of songs go into each other. They have some meaning. They have some sort of flow. So I like doing that. I know not everyone has the time or enjoys doing that, but a lot of time, if I have a 45-minute window, I'll throw in an album front to back and listen to the whole 45.
Angry Drunken German asked, what was the band name again? I think he was asking me. It's the Meters. The Meters, Meters. Great band out of New Orleans, I believe.
The Tungsten. Before we get out, Tungsten, that's so good. Sterling, can you get a beanie on your dog and do a side-by-side with it and Matt Connor? I'm still on that, and I would die laughing to see that on X. I'll see what I can do.
Poor Matt. That's our guy, man. That's my pregame partner. We're just a little bit of hazing here at the Addict is okay, right?
I love Matty C.
Who doesn't? How couldn't you? Just you get around the guy. He's dropping these bad puns and these witty departures, you know, and he just has. There's just an irreverence to Matt that is super enjoyable to me, at least.
Yeah.
That's all we've got for you guys. If you dig AA, here's how you can help our community grow. First thing you can do is subscribe here on our YouTube channel. That would really help Sterling and I out, as well as everybody else working to bring you great content. The second thing you can do, especially if you're an audio listener, is head over to Spotify or Apple, leave a 5-star review. That really, really helps us. And if you ask a question in that review, Patrick and either me or Matt Verderam will answer that question on Thursday's OG Hour, which is actually going to be on Tuesday next week. And last of all, be sure to check out the mothership, Arrowhead Addict. The aforementioned Matt Connor and that team really brings it over there. Thanks to the chat. You guys are awesome as always. Like I said, we won't be here next week on Wacky Wednesday. I think there will be a show. I think the Intangibles will be on Wednesday, it sounds like. And me and Patrick Allen will be doing the OG Hour on Tuesday, a little bit of a tweaked Thanksgiving week schedule. We're going to still be bringing you shows. And the Thanksgiving weekend games, we're going to do pregame, we're going to do halftime, we're going to do postgame. So we're still going to bring you a lot of coverage during the holiday break. Until then, go Chiefs.